Just guess sort of to express some disappointment with last night. We had not the votes to pass our budget on an emergency basis because it takes 4. If we pass it with just 3, it puts us in a situation where it does not go into effect for 30 days. And so passing the budget is probably one of our highest priorities if you look at it as far as the city is concerned. And this is more than a year-long process in terms of how we communicate back and forth to each other and get information from our department heads, how we set priorities and discuss these issues back and forth. And the aspect of why my colleagues last night, to look at not passing a budget that addresses the needs of 141,000 people is totally irresponsible. The aspect of saying that you have concerns does not constitute a no vote. All of us have concerns about our budgets, whether we're at our home, our personal budgets, where we're at work, in terms of dealing with those issues that concern us. And despite the good faith efforts with our staff and my colleagues over these years, or the last 11 months, I should say, we find ourselves again blindsided. And I'm sure you guys have seen some of those things that have happened in the past. No budget is perfect. As we address these issues again, I can say that over and over again relative to that. Attempts were made even at last night's meeting to stay as long as necessary, all night if necessary, to figure out what it was that was so concerning to those fellow colleagues to address this issue and to move the budget in the right direction. And we attempted again, as you saw, to address those concerns. Requests were made by Commissioner Sloss relative to a more participatory form of doing the budget. We've addressed some of those concerns, but again, those concerns were not raised with regards to this. I read last night some of the concerns that were raised. They had absolutely nothing that had to do with the budget. The issue in terms of how we have made these efforts on a continuous basis in terms of voting in favor of a budget that's scheduled to go into effect again for the beginning of the year is a major concern. And again, we asked them to stay, and they multiple times rejected the invitation to stay and to reconsider their moves and to find a solution to this process. Per charter, our budget process ends on the end of the year, because we start in January. Some organizations that I've been involved with, like schools and others, they have a fiscal year that's different. Some of us, like June 30th, for example, and some organizations, but the process is still the same. You pass those budgets before you move into the fiscal year or the beginning of a new year that allows you to pay your bills and take care of those responsibilities. You have to be authorized to spend the city's money and those dollars to move the government in the way they should be moved. Not doing this puts you in a situation where you potentially will be shutting down the city government. And that is not something that should happen at any point in time. And so having to do that at the beginning of January will put us in a situation where we cannot pay our bills, we can't pay our employees, we can't provide them with health insurance and other things, critical services to our residents, especially those who are most vulnerable. And that is a major concern to us. The issue in terms of not having fire, not having police, trash pickups, municipal court activities, and many more are all affected by this process. So it's reckless, irresponsible, and negligent behavior on the behalf of Commissioner Turner Sloss and Fairchild with regards to this dangerous game of rolling the dice, playing Russian roulette with the concerns of our city residents. And we are very concerned about that process. Many of you know that I have a history in terms of working in government. School board president, teacher union president, state school board, and others. All of us have processes that we use that are all consistent. And all consistency relies on the members of those organizations who have been charged and elected by the respective groups to follow those basic procedures and process. If you have concerns that are legitimate, you sit down, you talk about those concerns, and you work them out. You do not play Russian roulette and roll the dice with the lives and well-being of 141,000 citizens. So with that, I will stop. I will respond to what questions you may have. And again, it's a dark day in the city of Dayton, and we hope to be able to avoid this.
Mayor, I have been to a lot of these city commission meetings, and the back and forth I saw Wednesday night is not something I've ever seen amongst this council. Do you think you guys can work this out to avert the shutdown?
It's our intent to do so. So I'm a very optimistic person. You know, I volunteered to go to Vietnam because I thought I could end the war. So that gives you a framework of my optimism, okay? But the issue in terms of how we work to the best of our ability to make this happen is something that we're going to continue to do.
Are you meeting with them anytime soon, and when do you think you'll actually get an opportunity to try to work through the concerns?
We're working through schedules now to try to find out what we can do to get together to talk this through.
You don't have anything planned?
No, not at this point.
Mayor, can you specify what are the specific concerns Commissioner Fairchild and Attorney Sloss have?
No. No. Neither could they. We had the situation last night where we asked repeatedly, what are your concerns? And again, I will underscore, concerns do not constitute a no vote. Had we been made aware of the fact that there was a no vote pending for any reason, we would have worked those things out at an earlier point in time.
At some point, they said they couldn't talk about it because you would need to talk about it behind closed doors.
Well, see, that's contrary to what they said they wanted to have an open process. So you can't do both. So you can't use the excuse of wanting to have an open process and then say we can't talk about this in an open meeting. You know, so we're just as confused as you are relative to that statement.
Mayor Mims, as Commander-in-Chief of the City of Dayton, your position, how does it make you feel knowing that you have two individuals who want to rock the vote?
Well, it's disappointing because all of us took this oath to do the best we can to improve the quality of life for all the citizens that we have in Dayton. And we've been a really serious role over the last 8, 9 years, more so than the last 30 years or 40 years prior to. And we hope to be able to continue that movement. There are more people moving into the city of Dayton, leading the region in terms of job growth. Those kinds of things, more and more investment in terms of businesses and corporations, both moving into Dayton and making further investments in Dayton. I mean, it's just been so positive. You guys have seen that in terms of the kind of movement that we're making. And what happens when those things are happening, you begin to hit the bottom line. What the bottom line is for me is making Dayton the best place for someone to live, work, play, be educated, raise a family, and grow old. And in order to do those kinds of things, we have to increase the median income. Because the more the median income that you increase, you put those opportunities more and more at hand.
Having known you for almost my entire life, Mayor.
I don't know who's the oldest, you or me, but anyway, go ahead.
I say that out of respect for you and your position. Is there anything you want to say to the taxpayers of the city of Dayton that this too shall pass?
I just asked them to hold us in prayer and to wish us the best as we continue this process. Call us if you have questions, and come to me and ask questions as well. We have no problem with that. We're going to do it again, best we can, as quickly as we can, to get this moving in the right direction.
What about if this doesn't move in the right direction? You know, what happens if you can't get this resolved? Are we talking trash pickup that won't get picked up, piling up, calls that will go unanswered by fire and ambulance?
Potentially, yes. We can pass this with 3 commissioners, 3 votes, and the budget will go into effect in 30 days. The aspect of us having being blindsided by the situation prevented us from doing this at an earlier point in time because we've been working consistently. I know some of you have been involved in watching some of our budget meetings. We spent, the last couple of weeks, 3-hour sessions, 2.5-hour sessions on each. And some of you heard questions that were asked. At no point in time was any question asked that made us think that there was an issue that need to cause us to have to potentially shut down the government, or that there was going to be a no vote. In fact, I don't even think that they were aware that not passing the budget was going to shut down government potentially.
You said in the meeting that they should have brought this up a while ago if they had concerns.
Well, fair process. You know, and I know sometimes it's unfortunate when you look at what happens on a national basis, especially during election time. We see so many gotcha moments when individuals are blindsiding, sending out misinformation and disinformation as well through these processes. That's not what we were elected to do, to be a part of. We were all elected to serve the citizens of Dayton and do the best we can to raise the issues that need to be raised in accordance with how we improve the quality of life in Dayton. And that's our charge.
What are they trying to do by doing this?
You'll have to ask them.
At some point in time, Mayor, may it not just be best to just pass the budget if it seems like you guys cannot come to some form of a conclusion?
You know, again, that's one of the options we have, but again, that'd be 30 days. And that still puts us in a situation where, had we known that before, we could have done this, you know, a week or two ago, and would not miss a beat, if you will. Bringing this to our attention at the last minute puts us in jeopardy of going for maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks into the new year without being able to pay our bills. And this is challenging, especially during this time of year.
And Mr. Mayor, when you talk about that 2 week span, obviously you guys are working to avoid a government shutdown, but if the city government was to shut down because of this budget issue, are people's, when they call the police, are the police gonna be able to show up? Is EMS gonna be able to show up? What are some of those services that are just not going to be able to happen if this shutdown does come to pass?
Yeah, well, you touched on those, and I touched upon them as well. Police, fire, EMS services, trash pickup, road repair, I mean, just basic things that fall into that space. Now, because this has never happened before, this has never happened before, to my knowledge, in the city of Dayton, it puts us in uncharted waters relative to how we will navigate through this. I'm not sure how much I would date myself by going back and talking about the federal government shutting down for a bit. I think that happened, you know, maybe a decade or so ago, maybe 2. It just was not pleasant for those government employees in terms of addressing things that need to be addressed from that perspective. But I don't think it's happened again. But you have those threats of that. But they even have those threats. They do that in a timely manner so that you can try to at least work through those. And we had no knowledge whatsoever, no warning whatsoever that there was any opposition of this nature to the budget.
Have you spoken with Commissioners Fairchild and Turner Slough since last night? Have you spoken to them this morning?
No. They left the meeting, and both of them at work and carrying on their responsibilities there.
Mayor, what will be the next time that you'll be able to put this for a vote again?
Yeah. We're working through that as well, because it'll be, again, wanting to take the opportunity to sit with them, to find out what their concerns are, and to go through the process to resolve that.
Will city employees get any back pay if you do miss a?
Of course.
in the new year?
Yes.
I just want to follow up on the point with the police. So if a government shutdown was to happen, which I know you're working to make it not happen, would that mean there are no Dayton police on the street, or are you still trying to figure that out?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure that out. The answer technically is no. There will not be support in those areas. That's why this is so critical. That's why this is not a game, you know, and it's, again, sad, disappointing that we find ourselves in this situation.
And what would your message be to residents in the city of Dayton? I mean, I can't imagine, I know I live in the city, to hear that if this doesn't get resolved, that there might not be police on the streets.
Yeah. Well, I've been in Dayton all my life, okay? And it's never something that I would have thought of. So the message that I can give to the best of my ability is, again, we're in uncharted waters. I hope we can resolve this. I will do everything I can to help resolve this issue. And I know I have 2 colleagues who would join me to do everything they can, just as we offered last night to stay as long as necessary, all night if necessary. I heard Commissioner Shaw say. I'm sure it wouldn't have made my wife happy, but just all night, if we had to stay and make those things happen, we are willing to do so.
Forgive me for having to step out, Mayor. You might have touched on this a little bit.
timeline look like? When is like the final due date that you have to have this, or like you said, the shutdown could happen?
Well, it's, again, working to the fiscal year. If we were taking care of this last night, no issues, no problems. We have potentially maybe 3 or 4 days to try to work through this now to make sure we, to the best of our ability, don't have interruption in that process. I have not looked at everything. See, when we do an emergency ordinance, it goes into effect right away. When we do the regular passing of an issue, ordinance, or resolution, it is 30 days.
So that means somebody with medical issues is gonna have no insurance for 30 days.
Correct.
Somebody's child that's sick won't be covered for 30 days.
Correct.
Speak to your employees that here in the city. What do you want to say to them?
Yep.
Knowing this.
Yeah, 1,900 employees that we have here at the city of Dayton. That's 1,900 employees who come to work every day, doing the best they can to improve the quality of life of this community. We looked at customer service surveys that we've done since I've been here on the commission, and now as mayor for the last 8-9 years, that have shown that there's more cooperation, more cross-training, more collaboration among departments. We have seen a significant increase in terms of the way people feel about what work and product we give and service that our employees give to our citizens. And so it's a real serious slap in the face for those individuals who get up every day, go to work, and give this community the best they have to give, to have us, again, play Russian roulette with their lives.
Commissioner Turnslaw said she wanted more funding for HRC. And I know there was a discussion last night about that department getting an additional $40,000, is that correct?
Yes.
She wanted more funding, and there was a discussion that that department isn't asking for it. So can you talk a little bit about that? And she was also talking about the need for more trash pickup and things of that sort.
Regardless as to what your issues are, we've done some things in recreation that I didn't like because the budget didn't support that. We closed 2 golf courses because our budget couldn't support that. And those are things that I thought were viable needs to this community because they were quality of life indicators, plus it supported recreational opportunities for our young as well as those of us who have gray hair, okay? None of those constituted not supporting the budget, none of those. The issue in terms of how we have reorganized the whole HRC department, the issue in terms of them being able to increase the number of certified local minority contractors, and that has resulted in more local minority contractors getting contracts from the city and being able to have those dollars circulate around this community on a repeated basis. So those things have contributed to the median income increase that we've had in this city over the last 8 years, from $28,000 to $34,500. While it's not great, but it recognizes movement in the right direction. So the aspect of saying that they want more money when they did not ask for more money, because we just followed the request from that department as well as other departments to work through that process to reorganize and put them in a position where they can be as effective as necessary to address the needs that I've just shared.
Do you have any scheduled meetings with all the commissioners in the next several days to figure this out?
Again, not yet, but we're working on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Last night, the city manager had mentioned that even if you were to delay this a couple days, her staff still has to have time to get many different things in order.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, even if you all are able to meet this weekend or before next week to get this budget passed, are there still gonna be some implications from just pushing this down the curve and kind of going up the works on this a little bit?
Like I mentioned before, we're still in uncharted waters, and I know that staff has been working feverishly today, and some of them started last night trying to figure out the best approach to resolve this issue. And so again, I have no finite answer. I wish I did in terms of when this is going to get done. What I do know is that all hands are on deck in terms of trying to make this happen, because we owe it to the community. I mean, that's what they put us here for. We've made attempts in terms of team building programs to do the best we can to work together as a team. And I'll just go back in terms of history, but all the positions that I've had in my history, we worked together as a team. And whether it be school board, or whether it be teacher union leadership, or whether it be on the state board, that was a little bit rocky there, but the issue still, we were able to come together and make the best opportunities that we had for the young people or for those that we had control over.
Mayor, what's the size of the budget?
Yeah, we're about 190 million, in that range. It's not pocket change. Yeah, yeah.
Is that, how does that compare to last year?
We're somewhere in the same range. We're challenged. We've had to cut back in anticipation for what's happening because of ARPA and the work from home situation. We're potentially losing anywhere from $10 to $20 million of our budget, which constituted us having to make the kind of cuts that we made, again, with some of our different services, recreation, for example, I gave you, and then closing some golf courses and doing some things of that nature. Because the aspect of basic services that are required to do by virtue of charter, trash pickup, police, fire, that's the bulk of our budget, the bulk of our budget. The aspect of tearing down vacant homes and trash pickup, I mean, not trash pickup, but just the aspect of that and fixing roads, that's also a challenging part of our budget. Very small part, because we're using the ARPA money. We're one of the few cities in the nation that use a process, very open process, of going out to the community to find out how they wanted us to spend that $138 million. And so they came back with priorities for us. I mean, I can't think of a more open process, because most governments decided to do that without the input of their citizens in terms of how they were spending their ARPA dollars that they got. And so the number one issue for us, according to the citizens, was tearing down those blighted properties and addressing those concerns. So again, that falls back into responding to one of the concerns that was raised, more money to tear down or pick up your blighted, trashy areas. Now, we can never do too much of that, but we're also trying to create a position where people would not throw down the trash in the first place. So that's a whole attitudinal issue that we're trying to relay as well.
My last question.
Yes.
You say a consequence could be no air service at the airport. What does that look like? Does that mean all flights are grounded?
That's something that is painful just to even think about, especially during a holiday season.
Does that mean all flights are grounded?
That, with no one to work in those spaces,
So the airport
yeah,
was closed.
yes.
How do you know an estimate of how much money that would cost the city every day that airport's closed?
No idea right now. Like I said, this is uncharted water, so we're wading through this to the best of our abilities. And we will keep you informed, okay? So thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it. Okay, bye-bye.